Welcome aboard Rocket Ship, the platform with the most relevant content for competitive examinations. We'll take up a question in General Studies Paper 3 of Civil Services Mains Examination. Let us begin with the question, that is, what are non-tariff barriers and how they have become cause for concern for India and other developing economies. As you can see, the question has two parts. In the first part, you have to define non-tariff barriers, giving them their examples as you go by. And in the second part, you have to explain how they have become a cause for concern for India and other similar developing economies. Let us start with the answer. Non-tariff barriers are measures other than tariffs, as their name obviously means they are other than tariffs, like custom duty, etc., which have the effect of restricting free trade of commodities. These barriers, like the tariff barriers, have the effect of adding to the cost of the producer exporter, thereby affecting his cost competitiveness. As you can see, the adjoining graphic lists down some of the examples of non-tariff barriers. We will explain most of them in the next page, but some of them we will explain as we go by right here. So some of the non-tariff barriers are sanitary and phytosanitary requirements, place of origin rules, standards like particular quality requirements, occupational safety and health. For an example, the importing country might say that the exporter must show that they are providing particular safety and amenities, safety standards and amenities to the workers, like minimum wage, staff housing, etc. These things are much warranted. They are actually advisable for the benefit of the worker, but they obviously add to the cost of the manufacturer. Then come quota restrictions. What they actually mean, that the importing country might say that there is particular quota which the producing country, which the exporter must not exceed. Then come environmental sustainability standards and export restrictions. Again, this one is a novel non-tariff barrier. What it actually means, that the exporter might himself restrict the export of particular goods which are of critical importance, so that the other countries do not become as competitive as the exporter. We will discuss some of these non-tariff barriers in detail. Coming to sanitary and phytosanitary requirements. The first one is sanitary and phytosanitary requirements. What they actually mean, that the importer might say that the exporter must prove that they are maintaining some standards related to hygiene. These are, for sanitary and phytosanitary requirements, are related mostly to food and other organic origin products of other organic products. They are related mostly to food. Then what are some sanitary and phytosanitary requirements? They are related to hygiene standard. The importer might say that the product must be pest free. As you can see, EU had restricted mango imports from India a few years back because they were infected by fruit fly infestation. EU argued that the same fruit fly larva would infect the the fruit harvest in EU and ultimately harm them. So they had restricted mango imports from India. Then come chemical residue like pesticides, etc. They might say, the importer might say that the product being imported must have chemical residue less than a particular standard. Then come food preservatives. This was even in news recently, that some countries like Singapore and then United States, etc. had restricted or particularly even banned masala imports from India because some particular food preservative which was not permissible in their countries was being used in India by the masala manufacturers, the masala packagers. Then come place of origin rules. What they actually mean, that the importer might say, these are actually related to the rerouting of the produce. What might happen, that sometimes the exporter, if there are some tariffs being imposed on it, it might reroute its export through other country to escape those tariffs. We'll give the example of China. What China was doing when Trump administration had imposed some, sorry, China had imposed some restrictions on imports from China. China, what it did, it was rerouting its exports through Mexico. When United States found it, it said to Mexico that you might export to United States any product only and only if you certify that you are adding some value here. So this is called the requirement of some set value addition. For an example, a product that is being imported from China at a price of $1 a unit, Mexico must show that it is adding at least X unit to it. This is called value addition. What will happen? While the product actually costs 1 unit, but due to requirement of this value addition, its price would increase to at least 1.x unit, 1.x dollar. So it will ultimately lead to the Chinese product losing some of its competitive advantage as compared to the American manufacturer, as the domestic American manufacturer. Then come environmental sustainability standards like emission intensity, etc. This was even in news recently. What EU was doing, what European Union was doing, it was imposing some form of carbon tax on the imports. Actually, these are called carbon border adjustment mechanism. It is a type of carbon tax. EU argued that its own manufacturer was paying some form of carbon tax, so they were becoming less competitive than the than the importer. So what it was doing, what EU did, it imposed CBAM on the imports. This is also a form of carbon tax that was being imposed on imports. Then come export restrictions. As we have discussed, it is a novel one. And what happens, sometimes the exporter might himself restrict the export of critical components. Export restrictions are sometimes imposed on critical components. A case in point being China's ban on export of rare earth minerals. These REMs have wide use in semiconductors, sensors, lasers, radars, etc. And some countries, some of the importers of these materials are actually raising the concern that China is doing this to corner the future market, because these are future industries. These industries will grow into big industries in the future, and China is trying to ban the intermediate critical component so that other countries do not develop cost competitiveness or competitiveness as compared to China. Then we have already defined some of the non-tariff barriers. Now we will see the concerns raised by non-tariff barriers. What are some of the concerns that are related to non-tariff barriers? These measures, as we have already discussed, increase our cost and affect our cost competitiveness. We have already discussed it. Then there are concerns of unilateralism. What actually means that some of these measures exceed the agreed upon norms like WTO's agreements on application of sanitary and phytosanitary measures, technical barriers like certification standards, etc. So what happens? The World Trade Organization has already set some standards related to phytosanitary measures, certifications, standards, etc., quality standards, etc. And when a party like European Union exceeds those measures that are provided under WTO agreements, they are concerned that they are taking unilateral step exceeding the exceeding the measures that are provided by World Trade Organization, WTO. Then they are fundamentally against climate justice, especially environment and sustainability requirements. The non-tariff barriers called ESR, environment and sustainability requirements, are against climate justice, because we know that West is mostly the developed countries, or the West is, they are mostly responsible for climate change, but through ESR measures they are evading their historical responsibility, and they are forcing developing nations to share the burden of climate change. And again, coming to export restrictions, They may be a stratagem to corner the future market for oneself, as we have already discussed in the case of China, which was restricting the export of rare earth minerals. So, how do we resolve this dilemma? The concerns raised by non-tariff barriers. As you can see that non-tariff barriers, they are not always unadvisable. Sometimes they are actually a blessing in disguise. They are actually good, as they would compel our manufacturers to improve processes and standards and move up the value chain. For example, you know that Indians are known for their very low hygiene standards in their personal life, as well as in their manufacture, as well as in their what you can say, in the production process and packaging and so on. So phytosanitary requirements, if we adhere to the phytosanitary requirements, ultimately it would improve our own standards and help us command some premium value, premium cost in future. Then some NTBs are adopted by India too, as the case of place of origin rules in relations to imports from Hong Kong shows. What happened actually after the Galwan clashes of 2020? India had imposed some form of restrictions on imports from China. But what China was doing, China was actually, it was evading some of these restrictions by rerouting those exports through Hong Kong and showing that it was coming from Hong Kong. So India too was thinking of imposing place of origin rules on imports from Hong Kong, because ultimately they were originating in China. Then, so the need is to enter dialogue with our trade partners and strengthening WTO agreements, as we have shown that WTO already has agreements on, for an example, phytosanitary requirements, technical standards certification, etc. So the need is to strengthen WTO agreements and also have a fair and transparent dialogue with our trade partners. So this is how we sum up our answer. We meet again for the next lecture in a few days. Meanwhile, we would certainly advise you to do some writing practice, and also always keep yourself reminding of the syllabus. Never deviate from the syllabus too much. Anyway, this is all for today. We wish you all the best. Thank you.